And she comes to interview me, and she's like, hey, have a seat, sit down. So I sit down in this little parole office, and she's got my criminal file in front of her. It's about this thick. I'm holding my fingers up about an inch apart for your audience that's just listening. It's called your jacket. Your jacket has everything about you in it. It's every arrest, every felony, your whole life story. And she's flipping through the pages of my jacket for about 20 seconds. She slammed the file shut. She pushed it away. She said, Mr. West, I came here today to ask you one question for this parole hearing. She said, this is a one-question test, and the answer to my question will determine whether or not you go home or you stay in this prison. But the answer to my question, it's not in that file about the guy that I'm reading about who committed all those crimes. She said, we don't see a lot of Damon West come through the criminal justice system because you had it all, Mr. West. You had every advantage, every privilege, every opportunity over everybody else your entire life. She said, you're the definition of a privileged person in America. And she was right, y'all. Let's be honest. She read that file right. I am one of the most privileged guys you ever met in your life, right? But she said, your story is astonishing. She said, I've been doing this parole thing a long time. To go from where you were in life to having a life sentence in prison, she said, I don't think I've ever seen a more extreme story. She said, you had it all, but you threw it all away. You became a drug addict, a criminal, a thief. A jury in Dallas gave you life in prison for the things you did. She said, but instead of letting your license define you, you changed yourself inside this prison, Mr. West. There's no doubt about the change you made to yourself. But what got our attention, the reason why we're here today having this meeting, is you didn't just change yourself inside this prison, Mr. West. You changed the entire prison around you. The coffee bean, y'all. The coffee bean effect. She's talking about that. She said, so my question for you is this, Mr. West. She said, one man that changed this whole prison, I've got one question for you, and I want you to give it to me in just one word. Your answer is one word. Think very hard about this answer because your life is going to depend on it. She said, if you could be remembered for being anything in life, anything at all, she said, tell me what that would be, but give it to me in just one word. Go. Y'all, I didn't hesitate. I knew the answer to that question. I'd been living that answer the entire time I was in prison, and I fired her answer back at her, and I said, useful. I just want to be useful, and I can be useful inside this prison, or I could be useful in that free world again, finding more coffee beans. November 16th, 2015. Y'all, this is a day I'll never forget, because on November 16th, 2015, I walked out of a Texas prison. But I'm not free. Samantha, Alexa, I'm not a free man. You're not looking at a free man in front of you. I've got a little more time left on parole in Texas. I'm on parole until the year 2073. I'm on parole for the rest of my life. I got 50 more years basically from this recording right here. But I'm not worried about going back to prison. I'm not worried about being on parole. And parole has a short leash on me, y'all. Every month I see my parole officer. I pee in a cup. I pay my fines. When I want to leave Texas, like I do so many times a month to go speaking all over the world, I get permission from Texas. But I'm not worried about parole because I'm a coffee bean, y'all. The coffee bean. And as long as I'm a coffee bean, the only way I'm going back into a prison is when I go to prisons all over America. I share this story with the men and women inside those institutions to bring them hope on their journey. And I walk out the front gate of all those prisons today.
Wow. I can't even imagine being asked that question and have to answer it in one word. And I think
on the spot.
That's extraordinary. But the resilient mindset that you have to cultivate, and even being in prison, to change from being so negative to being positive and then influencing everyone in the prison, that is absolutely exceptional. And not many of our guests have experienced what you went through and the life that you've lived so far. But for anyone that has that negative mindset, to be able to get them out of bed every single morning and to give them a purpose, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, it goes back to focusing on the positive, right? Everybody's got something positive they can think about. What you focus on, you find. It's like that in life. Like if you focus on the negative, you'll find the negative. But if you focus on the positive, you will find the positive. This buddy of mine named Lee Brower, he's one of these life coaches out there. He's a real good guy, does real good work. He has an acronym for this. It's BIG, B-I-G. Begin in gratitude. Begin in gratitude. Every single day, start your day off beginning in gratitude. Think about these things that you're grateful for and focus on that. Because let's face it, the world around you, there's a lot of negativity out there. I would also say, don't spend as much time in your screens, your phone screen, your TV screen, these smartphones that make us dumb. the smart TVs that make us dumber. Those things are full of negativity because most things we get thrown at us it's like negative entertainment. The news that you consume, I don't care if it comes from the left or the right. Most of that news is negative entertainment. You got to turn that stuff off, y'all. You got to feed yourself positive things. Every single day, feed yourself positive stuff. Read the right kind of books. Listen to the right kind of podcasts. You are what you eat. It's not just about the food you eat. It's what you put in your brain.
I absolutely love the analogy. I couldn't agree more. It is all about everything that we consume, and so much of it is negative. I think it's really difficult for our younger generations to move away from that. We're millennials, and so we didn't grow up with that. It's still very easy for me to disconnect from my phone, disconnect from social media. It's a lot more difficult, for example, for my daughter to be constantly asking for social media. And for someone who's on the younger side and growing up in this negative world, what would your recommendation be?
So how old is your daughter?
My daughter is 12 years old.
My little stepdaughter is 12. So I got a 12-year-old over here too. So, and I can tell you what we do with her, with Clara, my little stepdaughter. She's not on any social media platforms at 12 years old. We just like, hey, that's going to be coming. You're going to get the Instagram, the Twitter, all that stuff. But we try to monitor the amount of like screen time she has, right? She's got a phone, and all the girls in her age group have had phones for a couple of years now, but we try to make her responsible with it. We also, with Clara, we also have her doing service work projects, we're going to do volunteer work somewhere in the community. We're going to go see people that don't have it as good as we do. And we're going to go spend time in that community. We're going to raise them up. And leave your phone behind. Like there's not, we're not taking our phones with us on this trip. We love the fact that Clara loves to read, and we've always, stressed the importance of reading. So she does a lot of reading still, and that's a good thing because I don't think a lot of kids do a lot of reading now. It's really concerning actually because I go speak to school districts all over America. I'm in front of kids all the time. And the trend that I'm seeing right now, not just with mentally how they are with their screens. I mean, you try to if you want to punish a kid these days, take their phone away, take their screens away from them. That's the biggest punishment. And it's crazy, but that's what it does. But after a little while without their screen, they become like almost like normal again. But y'all, I've seen stuff out there, and I hear about it from teachers and superintendents. Are like, man, these kids don't even want to go get their driver's license at 16. They don't want to go out and go to parties and stuff like that with other people their age. It's weird. It's crazy because when I was getting ready to get my driver's license, that was the whole world revolved around that. Everybody, was all about getting their driver's license, but it's not just the mental stuff I see that's a problem out there. It's the physical stuff. Everything I talk about being a coffee bean is about working out of yourself every day in 3 areas: spiritually, mentally, and physically. You want to be a complete human being, you want to be a complete coffee bean, you got to work out in those 3 areas every day. And that's the thing about the physical health I see of some of the young people, man. It's scary because physically, this is the parents too. The parents, because kids aren't out ordering their own food, stuff like that. This is on the parents too when you see the physical state of some of these young people.
Yeah, no, I completely relate to what you have to say. I used to be a teacher for about 11 years and I taught elementary school, and socially it was very awkward for these kids to be able to communicate with each other. So I had to teach them how to have a conversation at 6 and 7 years old. And even when I taught 5th grade, because to your point, everyone is so consumed with social media and the screen and the phone. And yeah, it's pretty wild what's happening, and especially their diets too. They were given food from the cafeteria. I mean, their parents could send in food, but it's all filled with chemicals and nothing's natural and organic that I saw them eating, which is really, really unfortunate. But I did want to switch gears. So USA Today named you the most in-demand speaker in America. And I wanted you to share with our audience how you ended up getting that interview to be able to speak to the sports team.
Yeah, so this is like, when I got out of prison in 2015, y'all, I knew I was sitting on this incredible story and the great message of the coffee bean, right? Because I just lived it. But the problem was there was nowhere to share my story, right? I found out real quick too. You can't, go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to your kids. Man, they'll chase you down the street. They chase me down the street, right? So I had to find people that would believe in me. And here's the thing. Growth follows belief. You have to believe in yourself before someone else is going to believe in you. So this has to be a conviction inside you that you believe in yourself so strong. And I was able to convince this local judge and this local law enforcement officer to escort me into these schools that wouldn't let me in. So now I'm being escorted in. When I first started doing this thing, it was all for free, y'all. And this is a lot of people reach out to me like, hey, I want to be a speaker. Well, get ready to speak in a lot of stages for free to get your name out there, get your message out there, and get in your reps. Get in your reps, y'all. Anything you want to be good at in life, you got to practice at. Practice really hard if you want to be really good, right? Tom Brady didn't just show up with a football one day and say, I want to be a quarterback. He worked his butt off to do it, Caitlin Clark, she didn't just decide last year she wanted to go shoot a basketball. She's been shooting basketball since she was a little girl and working hard at it. Anything you want to be good at in life, you got to get in your reps. So here's the thing. When I first get out of prison, there's not a lot of place for me to speak. But in my parents' spare bedroom, and I say my parents' spare bedroom because for the first 2 years I was out of prison, I lived in my parents' spare bedroom. And y'all, if I would have had a Tinder profile, it would have sucked, right? Like just out of prison, on parole for life, got a job making minimum wage. I live in my parents' spare bedroom. Like which way you swiping on that guy, right? But I would go in my parents' spare bedroom every night that I lived in because there was a mirror in there. It just happened to be there when I moved, a little vanity mirror. And I'd practice my presentation that I use today in front of that mirror. For 2 years, I got my reps in front of that mirror every single day. I didn't miss a day, y'all. I got better at it, sharpened it, getting myself ready for the right opportunity in front of the right audience. And I really believe the right audience for me was going to be the world of college football because I played Division I college quarterback, right? That's something rare. Not many people have ever done that. I know I can get through the student athletes, but the problem is it's been 20 years since I took a snap. These coaches don't know me. I don't know them. 14 months out of prison. The date is January 12th, 2017. A buddy of mine in Houston who works for the media in Houston, he calls me up. He says, hey, Damon, get to Houston right now. Houston's 90 miles from me, y'all. It's an hour and a half away. He said the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year award is going on tonight. The best college football coach in America is going to be named. The 8 best coaches are in this room right now. I've got an extra press pass if you want to go. So I was like, man, you better want to go. So I drive the 90 miles from Beaumont to Houston. I practice my elevator pitch. What am I tell these coaches when I see them? He sneaks me in the back door of the Toyota Center, hands me a press pass. He said, you're on your own. So there I am, y'all. All these coaches there. USC, Wisconsin, Penn State, PJ Fleck. And I'm running up to these coaches. I'm shaking their hand, and I'm giving them my pitch of why they should bring me in to talk to their team. And every single coach I meet that night slams the door in my face. They all said no. Y'all, it was a bloodbath. In 1 hour, I got 7 no's from the 8 coaches in the room. That's a no every 8 minutes. Now I'm in the corner of the Toyota Center. I'm licking my wounds. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And the voice in my head is screaming at me, go home. Get out of here, Damon. The voice in my head is calling me an imposter. And I know everybody knows what it feels like to have that imposter voice going on inside your head. But I'm going to tell you something. A long time ago, I quit listening to myself because the voice in my head was fear sometimes. And I knew I didn't want to listen to fear because fear's a liar, right? You don't want to listen to a liar. So instead of listening to myself, I talk to myself. I do it all the time still. Now I'm in the corner pumping myself back up. I'm like, you're not going anywhere, Damon. That last coach is going to tell you no to your face and then you go home. And y'all, the last coach, hardest guy to get to in the room. His team had just beat Alabama 2 nights before for the national championship. Everybody wants a piece of this guy's time. But I'm not leaving until he tells me no. So I stalked Dabo Swinney, the head coach at Clemson, around this room. And I look like a crazy person. I'm hiding behind fake plants waiting to ambush Dabo, right? I'm weaving in and out of people. I'm pushing people. Dabo sees me, and security has seen me now too. They're going to throw me out of Toyota Center, y'all.
Oh
and
my
I'm not
God.
leaving. Yeah, I get in front of Dabo, and I give him my best stuff for like 60 seconds, and I come up for air. And Dabo was like, man, you got a card on you? So I gave him my card. He said, I'll check you out, and he was gone. Y'all, this was a no. Looks like a no, feels like a no, but I'm going to tell you what I felt good about. That last no. Because that meant that I left it all in the field that night. And that was what I learned from sports, y'all. You give it your best effort. Or Muhammad, you don't have to win all your fights. You got to fight all your fights. Fought all my fights at night, y'all. Went home and slept like a baby. Forgot about that night. 4 months later, I'm at work. I get an email. The director of football operations at Clemson University, a guy named Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley's email said, "Hey, Damon, Coach Sweeney met you at a award show in Houston. He'd love to have you come talk to his team. Do you have August 1st open?" I got every first open, dude. I got nothing going on in my life in 2017, right? So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, defending national champions of college football. I haven't even been out of prison for 2 years at this point, y'all. There I am in the room with the national champions. And after my presentation that night, Dabo's up in my face. And Dabo's a very high energy guy. He's like, "Oh my God." He said, "Man, Damon, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. I've never seen my players respond like that to a speaker's story." He said, "Have you been to Alabama to talk to their football team?" And I'm like, "No, Dabo, I've been to Clemson, but I haven't really been anywhere else, man." He said, "Well, I just text Nick Saban. We'll see what happens with that." The next day when I landed in Houston for my trip to Clemson, I turned my phone on. There was a voicemail and a text message from the director of football operations at the University of Alabama. This is the Whale, y'all, the biggest program in college football. And the message says, "Hey, Damon, Dabo called Coach Saban. Coach Saban cannot wait to hear your story. How does August 21st, 7:30 p.m. work for your schedule?" Pretty good. I'll be there, right? Just like that, Dabo Swinney kicked open the biggest door to college football. And it didn't stop there, man. Kirby Smart calls. Lincoln Riley calls. Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day. Every coach in America starts calling me up. "When are you coming to talk to my team?" So there I am, y'all. I'm in the rooms. I'm living the dream. But the real big event was even yet to happen. I thought that was the big event, but the big event hadn't happened yet. It was August of 2018, 1 year after their first presentation at Clemson. I get a phone call that day, and on the other end of my phone is a guy named John Gordon. Now, John Gordon is one of the biggest motivational speakers and authors in America. He's the energy bus guy. He's the guy that I go to on Twitter every day for my inspiration. And he's on my phone. I'm like, "Dude, John, I know who you are. How do you know who I am?" He said, "Dabo Swinney." He said, "Man, I was just talking to Clemson's football team, Damon. Dabo brought me in the office for 30 minutes to tell me your entire life story." John said this before the pandemic, y'all. He said, "Damon, the world needs a coffee bean message, Damon. Let's deliver this message to the world." He said, "Will you write a book with me? We'll call it The Coffee Bean." The summer of 2019. This is exactly 10 years after I first heard the story of the coffee bean from Muhammad in a jail cell in Dallas County in 2009. The book, The Coffee Bean, comes out in the summer of 2019. Took the world by storm, y'all. I mean, it was on the bestseller list in America for like 4 to 6 weeks. Then it gets a global publishing deal. Now it starts popping up in every language in the world: Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, French, Italian, German, Vietnamese, Korean. It's in all of these languages just in time for the year 2020 when a global pandemic hits. And the entire world becomes this pot of boiling water. And the entire world is searching for the right message to get them through. And guess what so many people landed on? The coffee bean guy. Y'all, my life went from this to like this. I can't even explain how fast it happened. But it all goes back to that one night in Houston, Texas, right? January 12th, 2017, when I'm in the corner that night after I got those 7 no's. I was this close to listening to that voice in my head, fear talking to me. "You don't belong here," the imposter voice, right? But if I walk out that room that night, we're not having this conversation today. And the world doesn't have the coffee bean message. So what I tell people all the time is, you don't quit. You don't give up before your hopes and goals and dreams are realized. You don't not ask your question. The only question you know the answer to in life is the one you do not ask. That's a no every time because you did not ask your question. Wayne Gretzky may have said it best. He said, "You miss 100% of the shots you do not take." So you got to take your shots in this life, y'all. You got to go for it.
Wow, that was amazing. And Ed Milet always talks about the power of one more. And I think you're absolutely living proof that that is the case. You took another shot, you took another chance, you didn't give up, and your determination got you to where you are today. And I think it's such an inspiration for everybody who's listening right now to not give up. There is power in one more, to take that next step, to not.
Ed is such an incredible guy too. We've become really good friends since we did a podcast together 2 years ago. He let me on his podcast, and that was a story I told him. I said, "Ed, when you talk about your power, one more, I got one more story for you." And so it was really like in line with what you just said.
Exactly. It's the power of one more. You're living proof of it. If anybody living proof that one more is a powerful thing.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with that. It's like the book, The 3 Feet from Goal, too. You can have a missed opportunity if you don't go for it. So be more happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being with us today. And for anyone who wants to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, my website, damonwest.org, DAMONWST.org. Instagram and Twitter is at DamonWest7. And my books are anywhere books are sold. Usually Amazon is the easiest place to find books. I mean, the Amazon kind of controls the world. And y'all, listen, if you follow me on social media, you'll see stuff like I found Muhammad, the guy that told me the story of the coffee bean. You know, unfortunately, he passed away of a drug overdose in 2017, but I found his family. I started a scholarship in his name. Every year, I put $10,000 into the scholarship for one little boy or girl that comes out of South Dallas where he grew up, and they get a better chance at life through education, and the family gets to pick the winner every year. So you'll follow that. You'll see his family. You'll see just different things about being a coffee bean, putting back into the world.
That's incredible. And this is the reason why we started this podcast, to highlight stories like yours. You're absolutely changing so many people's life, like we said, and we're just so grateful and honored to have you on our show today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for y'all's time today, Samantha and Alexa. I really appreciate that. Thank you.